Good Wednesday morning. It is November 5th. You found us here at the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we're broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios. You might have found us on 13 News Now Plus. A lot of folks catch us on YouTube. We're happy you're here no matter how you found us. And I'll tell you, we do this each and every weekday morning around 9 o'clock. We have a half an hour show here with today's top weather headlines, and not just for Hampton Roads. No. We look at the big weather stories and climate stories, space stories, all kinds of stuff, sometimes science related. We tackle all of it from across the country and around the world. And you take a look at our headlines, some of the topics we're covering today. One of them right off the bat, more emergency aid going to victims of Hurricane Melissa. Now, we just found out some more information about what the U.S. is sending down to Jamaica. Of course, we're watching Cuba and the Bahamas as well. All those areas hit pretty hard by Hurricane Melissa. We'll have information on that emergency aid and support going to the victims down there. We also have some very unfortunate news to pass along about a attempted rescue with a helicopter over in the Philippines. You know, they were dealing with the remnants of, well, the leftover damage from a typhoon that rolled through the Philippines. And while attempting to perform a rescue over there, a helicopter did crash with 6 fatalities. So we'll have some more information on that. Then we're going to turn our attention to that typhoon because it not only impacted the Philippines, it is actually headed towards Vietnam. And you think about it, Vietnam went through devastating flooding a week ago. They had that record rainfall, incredible amounts of rain. And all of this has Vietnam kind of forcing them to rethink their approach to dealing with climate change when you consider the amount of money that they're spending in that flood recovery from that record rainfall that they experienced about a week or so ago. Then on top of that, the fact they've got another hurricane coming through or a typhoon coming through soon. There's a lot going on over there, and they're concerned about what they are planning to do, how they deal with emergency management there and trying to mitigate some of the effects and impacts of what's going on with the climate. So an interesting update from Vietnam. We're also going to talk about the Beaver Supermoon. Did you catch it this morning? It was pretty amazing. Around here in Hampton Roads, we had a clear sky. It was fantastic. We've got some video to show you, and if you missed it, we're going to talk about how long we'll have to wait before we get our next supermoon. A hint, it may not be that long. All right, stay tuned. I'll talk about that and let you know when you need to look to the skies for the next one. All right, we're going to start off, though, by zooming into this area. You see the Bahamas, Cuba, and, of course, Jamaica hit so hard by Melissa. It's just a little more than a week after Hurricane Melissa tore across the Caribbean, and the United States is now providing $24 million in emergency assistance to the countries hit hardest. That breaks down to $12 million for Jamaica, $8.5 million for Haiti, $3 million for Cuba, and $500,000 going to the Bahamas. The funding will be used for housing. It will provide water and food, sanitation, and emergency health care. The U.S. expects to announce additional assistance packages in the coming days after our personnel further assess the damage down there, and that will be an ongoing effort taking quite a while before we get a full assessment of all of the damage. Right now, several local groups are on the ground in Jamaica. Members of Virginia Task Force 1 from Fairfax County, they're helping with search and recovery efforts. They're based in Kingston, and they've been working all around the island, working their way west to some of the hardest hit areas. We mentioned earlier the Mercy Chefs from Portsmouth do a fantastic job. They are down there now serving meals to survivors and supporting those first responders as well in Black River and that area, one of the very hardest hit right there on the island. And then finally, Operation Blessing, based out of Virginia Beach. They've sent a disaster response team down to Jamaica. We spoke with them as far as their operation out of Montego Bay and some of the great work they're doing. The United Nations World Food Program is also helping the hardest hit Caribbean countries. The organization has shipped 2,000 boxes of food from Barbados, which will be distributed to shelters in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland in Jamaica. Those two communities have been more difficult to reach in the wake of the storm. They were so hard hit, again, in the west and southwest parts of Jamaica.
Our priority right now is to reach isolated communities like this one. We know that all across the Caribbean there's more than 5 million people who've been affected by Hurricane Melissa. And our commitment as the World Food Programme is to meet their immediate food needs, but also to continue to support national government in what is likely to be a marathon recovery.
World Food Programme is also helping in Haiti and Cuba. All right, so here's what's happening in the Caribbean. We're going to take a look at the tropics across the entire Atlantic basin. We'll also take a peek into the eastern part of the Pacific. Right now, the Caribbean is looking really good. There's honestly not much cloud cover, so this is good. Again, recovery efforts in Jamaica ongoing. It looks like a little bit of cloud cover, maybe dealing with a few showers, but nothing in terms of any storm development. That's good news. Eastern Cuba also in pretty good shape right now, as are the Bahamas. Looking over the western part of the Caribbean, we've been monitoring these areas, just some little flare-ups with showers and maybe a couple of storms there off the Yucatan coast, but nothing that is well organized. So that is great news. Across the Gulf, look at how quiet it is in the western and central portions of the Gulf. You head over to the Florida Keys, you see a little bit of cloud cover there, a little bit of cloud cover around Cuba there, the western parts of Cuba, but nothing showing any signs of development. In the eastern Pacific, we've got some clusters of clouds and some storminess here and there, but no tropical activity expected in the eastern Pacific right now, not over the coming week. For the eastern and southeastern U.S. coastlines, we had that front come through. Now high pressure is in place. I'm going to break down what that means for our weather here in the mid-Atlantic coming up a little later in the show, but high pressure providing quiet conditions, nothing tropical developing there. The rest of the main development region actually looking really good as well. The one thing that you're seeing here across the Atlantic, these clouds associated with what we call the intertropical convergence zone. And that's where the winds come together, where those winds meet, forces the air up a little bit. And these are just typical clouds that you see almost all the time in some fashion there along the intertropical convergence zone. It's just a product of the wind patterns around the ocean just kind of coming together. So nothing showing any signs of development there. That is fantastic. We'll take it. No tropical activity expected over the next week. And I'll tell you, I was looking at the 2-week outlook, and it was looking for a while like maybe there was a low chance that we could see some type of development in here. Okay, the outlooks that were projected out over the next 2 weeks have taken that threat out. I will say, looking at the GFS, the U.S. global model, out about 10, 11 days, it looked like it was maybe trying to develop a low in here. So we won't drop our guard, and you shouldn't either. Of course, the tropical season runs all the way through the end of November, but we'll see. For now, things are looking good, and hopefully it will stay that way. All right, we're going to turn our attention all the way across the Pacific back over to the Philippines. And this is that very unfortunate story we need to talk about. This is where an Air Force helicopter had crashed while taking part in Typhoon Kalmaji rescue efforts. All 6 people on board died. Now, the Typhoon Kalmaji, also known as Typhoon Tino, slammed the central part of the country early Tuesday morning. Torrential rain caused major flooding, submerging cars and forcing some people onto their roofs of their homes. Winds up to 115 miles per hour also knocked out power to thousands. Right now, the death toll from that typhoon stands at 85, but that's expected to keep climbing since more than 24 people are missing right now. Rescue operations are still underway. This video shared by the Philippine Red Cross shows rescue teams pulling a family of 5 from floodwaters. Typhoon Kalmaji is now the 20th cyclone to batter the Philippines this year, and as I'm going to show you, it is now headed towards Vietnam and perhaps Thailand. Let's take a look here at the latest on Kalmaji, and you can see it is back out over the water here, of course, the Philippines. As we take a look at the loop here, you can see how it was impacting the Philippines, and then it moved across, and now it's getting back out over the water and making its next run here towards Vietnam. So currently, it has winds of 85 miles per hour, gusting to 120. It is a Category 1 storm. As it's forecast, and this prognosis here, this forecast put together by the Japanese meteorology group there that does the hurricane forecasting and typhoon forecasting, they have it with 110 mile per hour winds Thursday morning. So tomorrow morning, 110 mile per hour winds, that puts it right on the cusp of a Category 2 storm here. Again, pushing towards the high end, almost a Cat 3. It's possible it could become a super typhoon before making landfall, but right now it's a typhoon, expecting to strengthen a bit before moving across Vietnam. From there, maybe Cambodia or Laos, and back over into Thailand. It will wind down and kind of rain out as it moves inland and weakens into Friday. So this is where it is. This is the official forecast on this typhoon, and we'll continue to watch that and keep you updated. That movement west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. They want this thing in and out of here as quickly as possible here in Vietnam. Where you get into the additional tremendous amounts of rain is when you have these slow-moving systems. Now, this additional slam here, even with it being fast-moving, it could be devastating for Vietnam, which is still recovering from major flooding that hit last week. Take a look. Again, record rainfall in central Vietnam turned streets into rivers, placing homes, farmland, and several ancient sites underwater. That area got more than 42 inches of rain within 24 hours, which is the most ever recorded in Vietnam's history. Flooding is estimated to have cost the country $1.4 billion in 2025, forcing Vietnam to rethink its approach to climate change. Vietnam is now adapting a new master plan through 2030, which pledges more than $6 billion to build early warning systems and move communities out of danger. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You see the moon here behind me. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Beaver Supermoon, some images, what happened this morning. We'll talk about when the next supermoon will be, and we've got your forecast for areas around the country that are getting hit with storms. We'll talk about the severe weather outlook and the week ahead. That's coming up. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. You know, in addition to talking about weather, and we spent a lot of time talking about weather-related stories, we love to also talk about space and cool things that are happening above the atmosphere where our observable weather takes place. And one of the things we talk about a lot is the moon. We had a supermoon this morning, and it was awesome. The Beaver Supermoon, which is the full moon in November. It occurred, and look at that, absolutely gorgeous this morning. A supermoon happens when the full moon is closer to the Earth in its orbit. Now, according to NASA, this makes the moon look a lot bigger and brighter than it normally would be. The November supermoon reached its peak in fullness this morning, and in case you miss it, we do have another supermoon coming up. Let's talk about the next one, how long you'll have to wait. So again, our next supermoon, we just came through the Beaver moon. The next one will be the cold moon, which takes place exactly 1 month from yesterday, December 4th. So we only have to wait a month to see it. Now again, this will be the cold moon is the last full moon of the year. It occurs in December, and it's falling into the depths of the cold winter. So that's where it took its name. In case you're wondering about the Beaver moon, how it got its name, there's some discussion that, well, this is the time of year when beavers really take to the dams that they build to kind of set up for the winter, more or less. Others say that old beaver fur trappers and traders would set their traps out for the beavers this time of year. At any rate, November's the Beaver moon, December's the cold moon, and when you have a supermoon like we saw this morning, that moon size can be up to 14% bigger and 30% brighter. So you definitely want to check out the cold moon. That's December 4th, just about a month away. All right, let's look at our temperatures across the region this morning. You can see we've seen temperatures down this morning. It was really chilly. We had some areas still in the 30s and 40s near the coast. Right now, we're sitting 57 in Norfolk, 55 in Richmond, 59 at Wallops, down around Manio and Hatteras, temperatures in the 50s to low 60s there. Still a little cooler out around Danville and Elkins. You get up into the mountains, you find some cooler readings as well. I want to get into the big picture nationally while we are very, very quiet. And I'm going to show you we've got high pressure just down to the south. There is a little action to talk about and some potentially rough weather, especially in the northwest U.S. Let's go ahead and put up the flooding potential. And again, none of these areas have a great risk, but there is that level 1 elevated threat for flash flooding across northern parts of California and up not too far from Seattle. You can see there back towards Forks and just these areas to the west of Seattle, you have that level 1 threat. Now down to the south of that, you get into portions of coastal northern California, basically Redding on northward, and just to the west of Medford, Oregon, you also have a level 1 threat. But it's not just a threat of excessive rainfall. They also have a level 1 threat for severe storms. And we're going to take a little closer look at this. I'm going to explain why here in just a moment, just so you can see some of the neighborhoods and communities. Maybe you're watching us right now online and you found us and you live out along the West Coast. You want to know if your city or community's in there. But if you're here in Hampton Roads, you may have family, friends back out that way. So Eureka, California, Crescent City, you can see Garberville and areas off to the north, all under this level 1 threat for severe storms. You get up into Oregon, I mentioned Medford, Glendale, Roseburg, Gold Beach, all the way up through Coos Bay, Florence, Eugene. Got the Oregon Ducks there. They've got this level 1 threat. It extends up through Portland and Salem, areas up along the coast, Tillamook. As you look north of that again, eventually that severe weather threat goes down. Now, again, to zoom in and show you these communities, they're facing the potential for something they don't see a lot of with this severe weather outlook, and it's just a kind of lowest elevated threat. But tornadoes, not out of the question here for coastal sections of Northern California up through the Oregon coastline. So anywhere from Portland on south, I mentioned Eugene down through Medford, and then areas down into Northern California along the coast. Don't be completely shocked if you see some rotating cells with the storm system coming in. That's unusual. That's why I really wanted to touch on some of the communities that are facing this potential. Now, in addition to that, they could see some hail. Again, it's just a slightly elevated risk, the first level of kind of elevated risk there, but still hail for these coastal areas, and then the wind damage, the more likely thing. Aside from that, we're going to turn our attention over to the northeast. But here, when you take a look from around the Cape Cod, all the way through Boston, back through Albany, New York, Syracuse, Binghamton, Buffalo, out through Erie, PA, northern parts of Pennsylvania, including Williamsport, these areas under a level 1 threat. They don't have an area outlook for possible tornadoes or hail. The main concern here is going to be the wind. So again, just an elevated risk that some of these storms that do develop could produce some gusty winds. We will, of course, keep a close eye to that. So that's what's happening with the severe weather outlook for today. I can tell you tomorrow, as I looked ahead from the Storm Prediction Center, they don't really have anybody identified or outlooked for severe weather right now. Let's hope that's still the case. Sometimes they change, obviously, from day to day. If things were to change, we'll let you know tomorrow on the weather desk. But as for right now, it looks like these are the areas that we'll be watching today. And tomorrow, nobody outlooked at this point. Want to dive into the radar, show you some of that rain working across the central California valleys. Again, some of these storms here, the concern for some heavier downpours and maybe a few stronger storms. Right now, just rain showers across most of coastal Oregon, so no severe weather there right now. I wanted to take you to Montana because not only are we looking at areas of rain back into portions of Washington state, you come back farther to the east, you get up around Kalispell, Whitefish, Montana. They've had some snow showers or flurries this morning showing up on the radar. A little more precip coming in. You get up in the Rockies, starting to see some of these snow showers at the highest elevations. And again, it's early season, but it's time. We need to start watching. And we actually have some light snow, at least detected aloft over parts of the Northeast, Vermont, New Hampshire, back into northern sections of New York State. So a little bit of light precip, a little bit of mix, and maybe some snow showers there as well, especially over the mountains. More snow up into Canada. And for the northern Great Lakes, we've seen rain showers working across Lake Superior, a few showers across Lake Michigan and Huron there, showers approaching Lake Ontario right now. That's what's happening with the radar there. This is what's interesting, though. I'm hoping to get some video again so we can start showing you some of the snow pics. Love this time of year when we start to transition. And it seems like we were just talking about the fall foliage up there. Now we're turning our attention to some snow, especially up into the mountains there when you look up into Vermont. So we'll see. All right, here are the temperatures across the region. You can see down to the south, it's going to be warm. Orlando and San Antonio, Dallas. This is early afternoon there. As we go a little later in the afternoon, they'll reach the mid-80s around Dallas, 87 at Phoenix. Temperatures pretty comfortable across much of the country today. Obviously cooler up into Maine and along the northern tier of the country. Overnight and into tomorrow, again, another surge of warmer air across Texas, mid-80s there. Temperatures in the 70s, Orlando to New Orleans, back across Atlanta and Little Rock. Hot in Phoenix, beautiful along the southwest coastline with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. We're going to be cooler here in Norfolk tomorrow. Today's highs, upper 60s to low 70s. Tomorrow, we're going to be closer to 60 degrees for an afternoon high. That's it. All right, that's a look at the forecasting. Real quickly, we'll touch on our air quality as well. Across the country, things are generally looking really good right now. You can see good air quality for most of California, moderate in the Central Valleys. Again, northern parts of Idaho up into parts of Washington State. Oh, some moderate air quality in a few areas, but look at all the green dots. We've got good air quality for most of the country, and that is great news to report. Sun is shining over Norfolk right now, and I wanted to point out some of the colors showing up with the foliage finally to Hampton Roads. Seems like it takes a while to get here, and it does, but now that we're into November, we're actually going to be peaking within the next week or so right here in Hampton Roads. So as we take a look at the latest fall foliage maps, again, color really coming in here. It's been low for the most part, but we're seeing more and more fall foliage, the colors really coming in here, and that's why I expect things to get a lot brighter for us over the coming week. and hopefully we'll be able to enjoy that. Now, if you've got plans to do a little leaf looking this weekend, say the leaf peeping with the fall foliage, Saturday looks okay, partly cloudy. Could see a very isolated shower. I think the better chances for showers farther north as we get into Sunday. This is when a front's coming through, and we will see the chances for showers later in the day on Sunday, much cooler after that. Here's a quick look at our surface features. We have an area of high pressure just offshore, and you can see the wind field coming up from the southwest. Basically, you've got the clockwise winds around the system, and we're going to find the southwest winds driving our temperatures up today. So our highs with all of this sunshine headed into the upper 60s, close to 70 degrees. Very, very comfortable for us. Those temperatures about 3, 4, 5 degrees in some places above normal. Tomorrow, the winds shift to the north. We've got a cold front coming through, and that's going to keep our temperatures much cooler, upper 50s to low 60s tomorrow, but just as quickly the temperatures will warm up after that. With the Toms Creek Window Company at the ocean front, I will mention while you're not seeing as much wave activity right now, we still technically have small craft advisories that will be going into place as winds pick up from the southwest. We've had a high threat of rip currents again. As you take a look at the marine forecast, as the winds increase later today and this afternoon, we'll see the small craft advisories going into place. High threat of rip currents here along the coast of Virginia Beach down to the Oregon Inlet and farther to the north. We will, of course, keep an eye on things. We were showing you right now it doesn't look too rough out there, but again, these are official reports that I'm passing along. All right, today, temperatures topping out upper 60s to near 70 for the peninsula. 69 around Newport News, 71 at Hampton, 70 at Williamsburg. Beautiful up around Colonial Williamsburg this time of year. Temperatures in the mid-60s for the eastern shore. Down south, Edenton, 69 at Elizabeth City, and upper 60s, Kill Devil Hills and Manio. Plenty of sunshine. Lows tonight near 50, and tomorrow back up to 61. Sunshine, cooler for a day, then warming again. After a front comes through Sunday, we cool it back down, some of the coldest air of the season, Monday into Tuesday. Remember, you can always get the full forecast when you scan this QR code, download the 13 News Now app. You'll have access to the radars, the forecast, our weather updates, traffic, and news updates as well from 13 News Now. It's been a pleasure spending the last half hour with you. Hopefully you've enjoyed the Weather Desk. Let your friends know about it, and we'll see you next time. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller.